We're going back to the Marvel Star Wars comics today with a look at a new Black Series figure, and we're kind of rounding out a specific half of this wave with a very fan favorite character. We've got Dr. Aphra here, and this is one that I've definitely been interested to take a look at just because I think she will be a pretty cool figure. I'm seeing a lot of Jaina Solo reminiscent articulation there, which definitely gets me excited. So I'm definitely curious to see what secrets this figure holds. So we've got her here in our standard Black Series packaging. Of course, you've got her there in the window. We've got some artwork down there in the corner. She is number 87, and then we have got some of that artwork on the back, as well as our write-up in a smattering of languages. So let's do it. Let's pull her out and take a look. And here she is out of the package, our Dr. Aphra figure. And I'll be honest, I'm really surprised that Hasbro gave us a sort of team in an entire Black Series wave. It still seems really weird for them to have done this. I'm very grateful for them doing this, but it's not really normal for them to actually just knock out a whole little sub-team in one go. But here we are. We've got 000, BT, and now Dr. Aphra to round out the trio. And there's some interesting stuff going on here with this figure. I think for the most part it's pretty good. I don't think that it has the greatest likeness out there, but there is a lot of cool stuff going on with this figure, especially when it comes to articulation, especially for Black Series. So let's jump right in there and see how she moves around first. So the head can look up a little bit. She does have a full head of hair, so of course that is going to make a mess of things. She can look down pretty far, and then she can bobble a little bit and then rotate all the way around. Her hair will make things a little tight, but she moves just fine. Arms go out, and then they rotate. You've got a rotating single jointed elbow, which is pretty normal. You've got hinges and rotation at the wrist. Both are lateral hinges. You've got your diaphragm cut, so she goes down a little bit. She goes back. You are going to get a gap, though, if you go too far. And then she has really good side-to-side action and then full rotation. But she also has a crunch, too, so she can look really far over. So this is very reminiscent of the Jaina Solo figure. So I'm getting a lot of Jaina Solo out of this one, which is a good thing because I love that figure. So she's got the twist up top and then the crunch down there, and I think it works really, really nicely. Legs go out pretty far. They kick forward all the way and back really far. You've got a thigh cut. We've, of course, got our double jointed knees. There is no boot cut, though, and then we've got a rocker and hinge down at those ankles. And I will say that I am having a little bit of trouble standing her at times, and mostly that comes because she has heels on. Otherwise, though, she is pretty well articulated. I think if there's one thing that I really like about this figure overall, it's that they gave her this better, more well-rounded articulation scheme, and I wish they would do it for a lot more figures. Now, as far as the overall look and feel of this figure, I think for the most part they really did a good job here. I already said that I think the likeness is a little off, and I will stand by that, but I think for the most part, this figure is really, really well done. The design on the body is worth the price of admission alone for me. And there's a lot going on here. It may be more than meets the eye at first because you've got a lot of kind of this distressed look going on. So a very Star Wars thing to have stuff look really old and lived in and used. Nothing that looks new at all when it comes to this figure by any means. So you've got this definitely, well-worn vest here, which hangs on her really nicely. It's a rubber piece. You could take it off if you wanted, if you pop the arms off or just pry hard enough. And it's got a wash in there to make it look worn and used. And the same goes for her shirt underneath, which has some grime and some just stains all over it, really. So I really, really like that. I love that about the Star Wars universe. Among a lot of other things, I really like the lived-in aspect of things that we see in terms of this time frame. You've got the tattoo that runs down her arm, and I think it's nicely done. There is a good tempo here. Everything's really crisp and clean. The colors pop. I mean, it's black, but it pops. And then you've got her belt, which is nicely sculpted. It's got more of that wash to bring out the sculpt in it. And then it's got the silver adornments for the buckles, for the rivets, the pouches. And then that leads down to her holster, which, of course, already has a gun. We're just going to talk about them now. Accessories. So we've got a gun. She can hold it in her trigger finger hand just fine. It does have a little bit of paint on the end, silver paint, and it fits in her holster perfectly. It's not going anywhere once it's already in there. And then that leads down to these kind of dull and faded, almost navy blue looking pants here. Kind of like, they're sort of look like blue jeans, but they're probably not. And then that leads down to her black boots. So, I mean, I like the look of the figure. I think they did a really good job with the body construction, with the overall aesthetic to make it look just like her in terms of, the type of character she is. She's always out in the thick of things, on the run, on a mission, doing something like that. So I think she looks, very much kind of just dirty, and she looks like how I remember her from the comics. But there is, of course, the head sculpt to talk about, and I think we lose a little bit of that when we get into some of the finer detail up there. And at the outset, I think for the most part, this head sculpt isn't bad. There is a lot of good stuff here. This is just, in a general sense, it's a good looking head sculpt with a pretty good photoreal application on it. The problem comes in when I have to think about this in the confines of Dr. Aphra, because I really struggle to see her in some ways. The face looks really stretched horizontally. It looks fat to me. And a lot of what I consider to be Asian type characteristics that we see in some of the artwork, depending on who's drawing her, I think those are kind of lost here. I don't really see that with this sculpt. So there's some weirdness going on with consistency between comic to figure for me. Otherwise, I do think the sculpt is good in a general sense. I just don't really think it looks like her. And then underneath the hat, you've of course got the hair, which has no real paint on it outside of just the black that we see here. But it's nicely done, and it definitely fits her look. And of course, again, we do have the hat here, which would be another accessory, and it's got a lot of that wash all over it to bring out a kind of distressed leather look. I think it looks really, really nice. So you've got the goggles that are sculpted on, so those don't move or anything. You've got the red strap that leads to kind of a light orange-red goggles with the silver lenses there. So I think it looks fine. I just don't really think that in many ways it looks exactly like Dr. Aphra. I think some of her unique qualities are kind of lost in this face. So overall, I'm still happy with this figure, despite the fact that I think the face leaves a little to be desired. It's a good head sculpt, it's a good face print. I just don't really think it looks a lot like what I consider to be Dr. Aphra. Otherwise, though, the sculpt for the body is fantastic. The paint applications on the body are great. The articulation scheme on this figure is fantastic. I want to see more of that. And she comes with the accessories she needs. So it's a pretty solid package. Even if the face isn't 100% there, I'm sure other folks are going to be plenty happy with it. She just kind of misses the mark for me a little bit, but she makes up for it in other ways. And hopefully we'll see more of this articulation with other females in the line sooner rather than later. So that's going to do it for this look at the Star Wars Black Series Dr. Aphra figure. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.